This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, sponsors of the 2025 Rule Natural Resources Investment Symposium, July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida, via live stream from the comfort and convenience of your own home. However you choose to attend, know that you will have access to the conference recordings for a full year. Know, too, that you're going to need that access because we're going to give you more material in 4 days than you can possibly absorb in the 4 days that we give it to you. A couple more things about the conference. First, unlike any other conference I know, we interview every exhibitor and every speaker before the conference so that you have the ability to be familiar with the material that we're going to present you and allocate your time and, more importantly, your financial resources more efficiently at the conference. We urge you to reach out to exhibitors and speakers before the conference so that, as I say, you make the best you possibly can of the 4 hours during the conference. Note, too, that unlike any other investment conference on the planet, all of the exhibitors at our conference are vetted. Every public company has shares that are owned by the conference sponsors. And while my ownership is not a guarantee that the share price goes up, it is a guarantee that the qualification for admission is more serious than a check that cashes. And every service provider is a company that I experienced no customer complaints about in my 30 years in the brokerage business, a very high test indeed. One complaint, no exhibitor. So at my conference, unlike any other conference on the planet, every single exhibitor is vetted. That allows me to make you, the attendee, a really, truly outlandish promise. At my conference, should you feel that you didn't get your money's worth from the conference, you will get your money back. 100% financial guarantee of satisfaction. No other conference on the planet does that. So let's begin the process. Let's begin the pre-conference interviews. Today, I'm delighted to have a friend of very long standing, Andy Schectman of Miles Franklin. Andy, first of all, thank you for decades of service to precious metals and bullion investors, but thank you in particular for your ongoing sponsorship of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Rick, I wouldn't miss it for the world. You've meant a tremendous amount to me for the 20 years that I've known you and had the good fortune of being trusted with some of your clients and all the way back to Global Resource Days. And it means a lot to me. I wouldn't miss your conference. Well, look, it's in my backyard here in Boca, but even when it was all the way up in Vancouver, the furthest flight I could take from Southern Florida, I would be there. So thanks for having me, and it's an honor to be here.
So, Andy, tell me something about your background. Tell me how you came to be viewed as an expert on precious metals, and why people should care about the nosy questions I'm about to ask you.
Those are important questions. I'm the least likely person to have ever been sitting here with you. We started on a wing and a prayer. My father and I did in 1989 in a one-room office the size of a closet before the internet. My father's middle name is Miles, and his best friend who lent us $60,000 to start this endeavor, his middle name was Franklin. And somehow through 35 years, 12 billion in sales, not one material customer complaint, which is something I'm as proud of as anything I've ever accomplished in my life. We're here. And along the way, people like yourself who have helped me along the way and allowed me to learn. And not only from you and watching you, I still remember the first day I met you, or watched you rather, at a conference in Las Vegas, Freedom Fest. It blew my mind. You stood in front of a room of 200 people and they fired questions at you with no notes, no nothing, bang, 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 bang. Well, when I saw that, to me, it was somewhat of a, I guess you could say, a rallying cry for me to learn and to study. And really, for the last 15 years, I have spent 2 to 3 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week, reading and studying and honing my skills so that I could, be trusted with people like you and your clients. That's the most honest answer I can give you. It's through hard work. It's through trying to do the right thing and never losing sight of my goal of being the best I can.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Worked 2 decades to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
Andy, you and I could talk about the macro case for gold and silver ad nauseum, but we're going to have a lot of folks that do that. What I want to do is I want to talk about where the rubber meets the road. You've been looking after, in particular, bullion and bullion coin buyers for a very long time. And what's beginning to bother me, I lived through the decade of the 70s when the gold price went up 30-fold. And scamsters, out and out scamsters, be they storage facilities or brokers or vendors, they just came out of the woodwork. And nice, unassuming people who didn't trust their government would send $100,000 to some scamster in an office above a gas station. So I want you to talk about some common sense methods that the folks who are listening to this can employ if they want to add bullion coins, stuff like that to their portfolios. The minimum precautions that they can take to do so without getting ripped off.
Yeah, stay away from modern minted numismatics. To me, it's as silly as lipstick on a pig. Anything that is brand new and certified by PCGS or NGC, it's silly. Anything that comes out of the United States Mint or any of the major mints in the world is MS-69 or MS-70. To have them certified and attribute extra value to them is a scam. But the biggest issue that I have seen, and I've been on some shows over the past year. In fact, I've been on Kyle Sarafan's show, who was an FBI whistleblower and a very smart man, and many others subsequently, because something I see happening, Rick, it's so bad. It's so pervasive. I get people coming up to me that are 80 years old crying, saying, if my wife only finds out what I did, I'm in big trouble. Let me explain. I know a guy who worked for Jordan Belfort for the Wolf of Wall Street. And I asked him, did you go to jail? And he said, no, I left when I found out what it was all about. But a lot of the guys that I started with, they ended up in jail because they started their own shop. They left Jordan and did the exact same thing he was doing, and they all got in big trouble. Interesting, I thought to myself. And then I see what's happening in the industry right now. And if any of the people listening to this have been affected, they're going to know in about 10 seconds. Because what I have seen is there's 5 or 6 companies, and I never mention which ones they are for the obvious reasons. Most of them are being touted and promoted by high-priced spokesmen. But what they're being sold is the same thing every time. Knock it off, guys. Stop it. It's sorry about that. It's quarter-ounce gold coins. First of all, always, I like quarter-ounce gold coins. I apologize. Every time I get online, they want to chime in. Quarter-ounce gold coins from mints that we may know, like the Royal Canadian Mint, like the Australian Mint. But coin types, you have no idea what the heck they are. I've been doing this 35 years. I have no idea what they are. That's number one. I don't know why they always choose quarter-ounce, but every single one of these companies, they choose quarter-ounce gold coins that range in price from $1,100 to $1,500. Do the math. You're talking from $4,400 to $6,000 an ounce. And 1.5 or 2 ounce silver coins that range between $70 to $200 each. And they're always coins that I have no idea what they are. It could be the Canadian red-billed duck. I mean, you've never heard of it. You've heard of the Canadian Mint. And in essence, what happens is these mints, like the Royal Canadian Mint, which is one of the most prestigious in the world, or the Australian Perth Mint, one of the most prestigious in the world, they will allow companies like mine, if I wanted to, buy, make a commitment for $1 million, $5 million, and buy coins that they will make specifically for you and nobody else. And they have to be fractional sizes in silver, like 3/4 ounce, 1 1/4, 1.5, in gold, never the 1 ounce, quarter ounce every time. And then they sell them and say that they're super rare and that you're buying something that only the wealthy folks buy. Let me tell you something. It's one of the most horrific things I've ever seen, and I'm not being sensational. It is the most horrific thing I have ever seen in 35 years in this business. And every single time they're focusing on IRAs. These are the companies that only do IRAs, and they are literally destroying people's futures. They're destroying their lives. And these are people who are too old to make it up again. It's worse than I am saying to you. If you've been caught up in this, we know what to tell you and how to help you to get out of this situation. And I don't say this to get business. I say this because I have seen people's lives literally destroyed, and I'm talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails that I've received over the last year since I started talking about it. So how do you stay away from this stuff? It's very simple. You make it really easy. You buy 1 ounce coins, American Eagle, Canadian Maple Leaf. You buy 1 ounce gold bars, Swiss made, Pamp Swiss, Valcambi. You buy generic vanilla stuff that you can go online and look at every single major company, Miles Franklin, JP Morgan, APMEX, SD Bullion, Money Metals, and bang, there it is, there it is, there it is. You try to put one of these 1/4 ounce coins, look on any of those websites, you'll never find it. That's the easiest way. Stay away from modern minted, certified coins, and only buy stuff that, for lack of a better description, is vanilla ice cream. You don't want the Neapolitan. You don't want the fancy sherbet. You want vanilla ice cream that you can go to any dealer in America and within 6 seconds find out, yeah, I was given a good price. That's the best way to stay out of trouble. It's as simple as that.
That's wonderful advice. It makes perfect sense that, how would you say this, the shady shops would find an off-brand product from a brand source where you could charge an exorbitant markup in a coin that didn't have an aftermarket. It makes absolute sense to me.
And then the worst part is that you get unsuspecting people who are promoting them. A friend of mine, I won't mention his name, he's someone that everyone would know, was offered $45,000 a month. I did a show on Mike Adams, the health ranger. Now, this I can mention because he said it when I did the show with him. He was offered $100,000 a month by one of these companies. He admitted it on a show I did with him 3 weeks ago. That's the kind of money that they're paying these spokespeople who have no idea what they're doing on the other side. And most of them have what they call a 3-year guarantee, where you got to hold it for 3 years. And they look at their statements and the IRAs, and it's a fraction of what they pay. And they say, oh, the IRA companies just value it at spot, but give it 3 years. At the end of 3 years, here's what it'll be worth. And if people push back and freak out, well, they grease the squeaky wheel. And they figure, well, the few that squeak will grease the wheel. If you know what to say to them, the rest are watching their life savings literally be destroyed. And I say that with 1,000% sincerity. It's one of the most awful things I've ever seen in my.
You know, Andy, I'm a career banker, and a 3-year guarantee from somebody whose balance sheet or income statement I haven't seen is of no particular interest to me for reasons that I'm sure that you can understand. Tell me something. Well, I guess you did. You said in terms of people who are wanting to participate in physical ownership, that the product that they need to buy are standard products from reliable sources, from reliable dealers. Period.
Yes.
Full stop.
Yes.
That's it. You don't need to do anything fancy. In fact, you should not do anything exotic. You participate in gold by buying gold or silver, and by buying it in the most liquid possible form from the best dealer that you can find at the best price. That seems fairly simple to me.
It is. And this is why I left my company, by the way, in Minnesota, even though I live in Delray Beach, Florida, because Minnesota is the only state that regulates what is a federally non-regulated industry and has bonding requirements and licensing requirements and these kinds of things. Because in a homogenous world, you're right, the difference is, or a homogenous industry, homogenous product, the difference is who you're buying it from and the price that you're being charged. My mentor, and I would consider you, and I don't say this because I'm here in front of you, you are one of my mentors on many levels, and I thank you for all the years of tutelage and friendship. But Richard Russell maybe was my first, and he used to say, in the end, it's about the number of ounces that you own. And I agree with that. The only caveat I would put is 1 ounce in gold, never bigger, name brand stuff, American Eagles, Canadian Maple Leafs, 1 ounce bars. In silver, you can go up to a 100 ounce bar. Don't go bigger. You'll never have problems. Yes, it's about the number of ounces you own, but make sure you do it in the right format. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Don't buy a kilo gold bar versus 32 1 ounce gold bars. The savings, the small savings, even 10, 15 bucks an ounce, so it's 600 bucks a bar for a kilo, is not commensurate with the loss of flexibility on a bar that's now almost $100,000. So 1 ounce gold up to 100 ounce silver from name brand, well-known refineries or mints that you can easily check on every other website. You will never, ever have a problem with being taken advantage of or lack of liquidity.
You know, Andy, the best way that I have to track interest is the flow of public monies into physical ETFs. And finally, after a gold bull market that I personally track back to the year 2000, for the last 12 weeks, we've started to see real substantial inflows of investor money, not central bank money, but investor money into physical gold, which suggests to me that the interest in this is really increasing. And I personally, it's difficult for me to understand a reason why people wouldn't include bullion in their portfolio, but I'll leave that to an individual decision. If the people listening to this interview and coming to the conference would like to learn more about the products and services that Miles Franklin sells, who particularly did they contact, and how do they reach that person?
Well, in every interview I've ever done with you, I do the unthinkable, because I know ultimately, who knows how many people will watch this, but out of appreciation and my commitment to never allowing that first complaint to rear its ugly head, it would be me. The buck would stop with me as the owner of the company. And they can send me an email, and that's Andy@milesfranklin.com. I don't put that out. I have 7 interviews tomorrow, believe it or not. I would never say that on any of the interviews, but for you, I will. It's Andy@milesfranklin.com. I will answer every single email, much like you review every single portfolio that people send. So, I think you're the hardest working guy I've ever met. That's as successful as you are. That's something to emulate. So we'll start with that. If people need to reach out to me, and I would appreciate that with any questions. We also have a price list that we don't publish. We send it out, and that price list will be as good or better than anywhere in North America. There are a lot of reasons I keep it close to the vest, but whether it just be asking for prices or asking questions on IRAs, anything that you heard us talk about here with perhaps you got tangled up in something untoward, or any questions that you have, feel free, please, Andy@milesfrank.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The buck stops with the boss. You want to learn more about bullion, and by the way, you do want to learn more about bullion, get in contact with Andy, as he suggests. Andy, thank you for a couple decades of hard work on behalf of bullion owners. Thank you in particular for your ongoing sponsorship and support of our symposium.
Wouldn't miss it, Rick. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in July, and all the best to you and everyone out there. Chat soon.